great. I'll give a super quick summary. All right, cool. Well, first off, were there any questions from last week? And as much as that we can now like uh, talk, were there any questions?
In terms of the paramis
Yeah. Okay.
and contemplating them,
Yeah.
I just had a question for um, how you like keep those in the front of your mind, off cushion if that's what we're supposed to do.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good question. Gosh, I don't. You know what? My first answer is I don't know. Um, I just like physically look at a list, and then I also like do this meditation. So like I'll have these like mala beads, and then I'll do like a round of like contemplating like through mudita. Like I'll have this mudita on one of the paramis for somebody, and so that just sensitizes me to it. Um, yeah. So then that's how I do it. Hold on, let me look at this. The toilet list, right? Oh yeah, that's yeah, exactly. Yeah. The toilet list, exactly. Yeah, so I'll look at I'll look at the list and get sensitized. But then also like I think part of the reasons why it's so cool to do the mudita practice with each parami is because okay, so one thing that's said is that when you really elevate your level of parami, then that's when awakening starts happening more and more. It's more and more likely, right? Well, so but that's like speculation. I mean, that's like just some basically bullshit I'm telling you right now. I mean, you need to prove it to yourself, right? So how do you prove it to yourself? And I totally remember this. This was like a real like insight I had at one particular moment. Like I was doing this practice and then I went through like a list of I was going through like a thinking about a teacher and I went through all 10 paramis. And I'm like, wow, I can legitimately see how each one of these 10 paramis is really built up in this human being. And at that moment, I had a different understanding of the paramis. Is like, okay, this is not just some sort of nonsense or like some sort of like pressure to just be like a good person or something. This stuff really brings about awakening. And so that's how I started taking the paramis more seriously. So that's kind of like a motivational issue. So there's a motivation, and then there's just being reminded of it. That's what's coming up for me. Yeah. um,
I had a quick report from last week now that
yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Zoom is working for me.
Yeah.
One thing is that your instruction for mudita being unreasonable or it being okay if it's unreasonable was like super helpful and really connected with me. And it let like when the old habits of like someone experiencing joy but me feeling annoyed or jealous or having some kind of negative reaction to it would come up, I would be like, oh well, that reaction doesn't feel good and I don't need a reason to have mudita, I can just have it. I'm just going to
Right.
turn it on. I'm just going to like switch into that. It was like, oh, like this real light
Yeah.
response to a lot of old tension. It was like, oh, like this is just conditioning and I don't need a reason, I can just unreasonably be
Yeah.
happy. So that was like super nice and helpful. And then trying to memorize the paramis, I don't know if I got there with all the funny words, but getting to when I was reading them and I got to Kanti parami, patience, tolerance,
Yeah.
forbearance, acceptance, endurance, I really connected with and resonated with that experience in myself.
Mm.
And it also let me kind of relax or soothe the part of me that's been activated with some things that have required a lot of
Yeah.
patience and tolerance. It was like, oh, it's been helping me develop this quality. So it kind of shifted my view on some of those feelings of, like activation with relationship problems
Yeah.
or things like that. So yeah, very, very nice and helpful. Yeah, I think I want to spend more time with the paramis and like maybe try to dive into each one individually over some time. But yeah, it was super helpful, but I think very like hard to do them all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I am, and I kind of mentioned this vaguely, but I'm pretty sure within a month I'll do a like a 1 day retreat on just mudita and the paramis. So whatever. Nothing all joy. I'll let you know. But yeah, man, what'd you say? Like so, something that I think is interesting about the paramis is it gives you like to be clear, you've got everybody has all 10. at some level of development, right? But then, and then there's also like kind of an unconscious, unintended development of all 10. Just if you're practicing, and maybe if you're just not, even if you're not practicing, you're probably going to develop them somewhat. But then to have like this, to be able to name it and to think about it explicitly, and then explicitly try to cultivate it. And then also, I think it's important to have a sense of accomplishment as you're cultivating it. Because like, as you were talking about like the whole tolerance, forbearance, everything, like life is a big test on forbearance and tolerance. Like you're just fucking sitting to having to sit there and deal with it. And it's uncomfortable a lot of times. But if you can just have this frame of like, okay, this is useful, like this is good for me and good for others, then it kind of like reframes it into something useful. So then what's coming up now is like Shinzen talks about, there's some Zen quote, like most people are used 24 hours a day, whereas the Zen student uses 24 hours a day. So you like really kind of can come to your life more constructively and like cultivate and stuff like that.
So I had a thought. I used to meditate on chakras or chakras. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And I thought I kind of saw a parallel between that, working from your root chakra and then working your way up to your crown chakra. With the list we were talking about.
Yep.
And sort of just working from one and then working your way up to the top.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You're doing like a structured meditation of going through them. So yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, and then also Tabitha, you had a question. How do you use the mala beads and why? So like, again, like, and you can just get like Mardi Gras beads. I also literally use Mardi Gras beads. I'm not real, whatever. It's a big deal. But so like, you just take them and then it like just helps you stay focused. And you can also use them with both hands. So you can like do like this, and then each time you do the prayer or you say the mantra or you do the visualization, you just move one, and it's just no big deal, right? It just helps you stay concentrated. So that's how I use them.
And in Tibetan practices, there are like, you have to do 100,000 of each thing, and you keep count by having the beads go by.
That's right. Yep. And then there's generally 108 of them, and they say that they use 108 just to correct for rounding errors when you forget and you don't know where you are. So you always go 8% over so that you're getting your 100.